I'm going to present to you a poet that some of you may know from DPAN and DPAN TV. He's from Chicago originally, went to Columbia College. He plays the blues. He does great performance poetry. Please welcome to the stage Mark Levin. Mark!
Hey, how you all doing? Thank you for that welcome. That was beautiful. So for those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Mark Levin. I'm going to do a few poems for you tonight. My first poem tonight is called Dis-Visability. The sign Dis-Visability. What does that mean? When you guys get to a parking lot and you park, you see that handicapped parking spot right there. When you go to a bar and you see the captions on the TV, when you see the handicapped wheelchair ramps at the entrance to a business, you don't think anything about that. But there's people out there that need that. So for us who are able-bodied individuals, it's a disvisibility. We see it, but we don't think about it. So this first poem I'm going to do tonight is called Dis-Visability. The visibility of disabilities on the streets show capabilities. But when the world is taught not to stare, those with agility move around with versatility, ignoring any fraction of debility, naively believing they've provided accessibility. We're lucky, we're fluent in adaptability. Don't you agree that society must admit its own disvisibility and its out of sight, out of mind imperceptibility? I get it. It's scary to sometimes look at someone and imagine yourself in that position. But why? Why is it scary? Are we afraid of our own struggles? Or the struggles that society will impose upon us? There's so much ability and disabilities, but we're so focused on what can't be done rather than what can be done. It's considered such a shame that at one point, Congress considered a ban on virility and fertility, and sterilization was their answer because it's easier for them. But let's go back a minute. Let's talk about the abilities and disability. Let's examine the parallels of paralysis upon perceived perceptions. First, let's look at the parallels. I've seen individuals in wheelchairs carefully maneuver themselves upstairs because they didn't want to be carried. I've seen blind people navigating the streets with just their walking stick. I've seen a woman with 4 partial limbs that were undeveloped participate in CrossFit. And now let's examine the paralysis. I've seen able-bodied individuals walk an extra 200 feet to take the elevator because they didn't want to use the stairs. I've seen people afraid to invoke the beauty of nature because they were afraid of heights. I've had friends say they didn't want to ride their bike an extra couple miles because it's too far. People complain about parking in the back of parking lots because they don't want to walk all the way. And I'm totally guilty of that. But it must be nice to have choices of laziness, or as the disvisibilities call it, an inconvenience, because we don't. We've accepted the paralysis, and now the only thing left to do is tackle the parallels. And you can argue with me all day about the medical factors of what a disability is, but simply put, isn't disability just a perspective? Y'all get that? Are we all guilty of dis-visabilities in here? I know I am. So my next poem is called Senses. Ever since we were little kids, people told us what senses are. Touch, taste, sight, smell. We have 5 senses. But do we really?
The visibility of disability.
Did you hear that? The caressing whispers of the wind against your skin. Or perhaps you saw it with your eyes. The blades of grass bending with the breeze. How is it that everything we think we know about senses is a lie? How is it that something you say can be the most painful thing I've felt in my stomach but not my ears? How is it that I can taste the feeling of love in your cooking? Just a pinch. Touch is smell, and smell is sight, and sight is taste, and sound is feeling, in every which combination of each other. What you see and hear, another feels, and what one tastes, another smells. When someone says, "You look radiant," you respond with, "Thanks, I feel great." The lies we were told about what the senses are restricted us from appreciating life and the way things may actually be. You see, things that sound good don't just sound good, they feel good. The vibrations harmonize our core foundations, and the vibrant colors of the flowers in the field smell good. And the taste of the spicy one-chip challenges. Pain! And the first time I met my love and our lips touched, I heard the harmonic sound of 1,000 angels singing. And the sound of a baby laughing is a feeling of love like no other. So when will we reassess what the senses are? When will we let go of the notion that just because a person is blind doesn't mean they can't see, and a person who is deaf can't hear? Because let me tell you, people who can see aren't always using their eyes, and those who can hear aren't always listening with their ears. People always ask, would you rather be blind or deaf? What would you rather be? I'd rather be blind because I can't live without music.
I'd rather be deaf because I can't live without seeing such beauty.
I'd rather just be. Sight isn't just sight, and sound isn't just sound, and feeling isn't just a touch. Oh, how beautifully it all connects. Touch is smell, and smell is sight, and sight is taste, and sound is feeling, and every which combination of each other. So let's stop lying to ourselves about where senses come from. You can hear with your feet, you can see with your hands, you can smell with your tongue, and you can taste with your nose. So I ask again. Did you hear the caressing whispers of the wind brushing against your skin? Or did you see it, at the blades of grass bent with the wind?
Thank you. So is anybody still really confident about what the 5 senses are? That's the right answer. So I got one last poem for you, and then we got Sean Ford. I'm gonna try that again. I have one last poem for you, and then we have Sean Ford. I'm gonna try that again. For those of you that don't know me, I am also deaf. So, I have one last poem for you, and then we have Sean Ford. I heard that one. So my last poem, it's called Sometimes I. I make a reference to this on my previous poem about, would you rather be blind, rather be deaf? And the way that the world, the able-bodied world, sometimes looks at people with disabilities is with a pity. And it's not a good way to look at the world. Proud to be deaf. Proud to wake up in the morning and have a choice whether or not I want to put in a hearing aid or live the world in silence. And that's what this poem is all about. So I'm just going to leave it at that. This one's called Sometimes I.
Eyebrows raised, pupils dilate, a smile awaits. I know what's next. It's the punchline and I missed the whole thing, but I caught on and faked along. Day in and day out, it's the same flow, so allow me to tell you how this story goes. Each morning I awake to the silent fate that I was meant to face. Luckily I've gotten the opportunity to put in a pair of ears and live life somewhat fake. I thought I understood what was being said. However, instead, I fill the blanks and nod my head. Just recently, someone asked if I understood the words that were coming out of their mouth. The only time strangers really listen is when I talk with my hands, and they folks that can't even understand, staring as if my dialogue is an open red blog. It's one thing to stare, but when you pull up a chair and you prop up your elbow and rest your fists under your chin and watch as if you're watching fights on UFC and you don't know me, when I turn to ask if I can help ease their curiosity, their jaw drops in disbelief.
Holy shit, you can speak!
All of a sudden now I'm looked upon as if I'm a circus freak. There's one thing that hearing folks don't get. There's a difference between hearing, there's a difference between understanding, and there's a difference between listening. If most people realize that shit, most relationships won't be so whack. I can hear, but can I understand? To be honest, sometimes I don't give a damn.